Welcome class to another lesson. We're going to continue with 5.3, dividing polynomials. In this lesson, we're going to particularly talk about dividing polynomials using long division. Now you guys have done long division before. It was just a long time ago in the 3rd grade. Let's review what you did back in the 3rd grade, because the algorithm that you did for long division in 3rd grade is the exact same algorithm that we're going to use to divide polynomials. Algorithm just means it's another word for saying a pattern. The pattern that we use for long division in the 3rd grade is the exact same pattern that we're going to use today. So let's just take, for example, you don't have to write this down, but just watch with me as I do 522 divided by 6. So when I saw this in the 3rd grade, here's the first thing that I did, and I believe it's the first thing that you did as well. You made a division bar, and you put 522 inside that division bar, and you put 6 on the outside. Now here's the next thing that you do in class. I know this is going to seem very elementary at first, but there is a purpose behind this. I really want you to pay very close attention, especially to the procedure that I do here, because this exact same procedure is what you're going to do for problems number 3 and problem number 4 in your notes for today. So here's what we do. When we were in the 3rd grade, we said, how many times does 6 go into 5? And the answer, obviously, none. It doesn't go in there at all. So then you went on to the next number. You said, how many times does 6 go into 52? And the answer to that is obviously 8 times. So once you put that 8 up there, what is the next thing that you did? The next thing that you did is you multiplied 6 times 8. Whatever you got for this number up here, you multiply that back down. So 8 times 6 is 48. And once you got to this step, class, very, very important step, what you did is you subtracted this number. 8 times 6 is a positive 48, but then you subtracted it, or you did the opposite. And then we took 52 minus 48 and got a positive 4. Once again, class, here's another important step. What did you do next? Next, you brought down this positive 2. So we put a 2 right here. So now we asked ourselves, 6 multiplied by what number gives us 42? 6 times what gives us this 42? And we said it was 7. Once we got 7, we then multiplied it down to get 7 times 6 equals 42. Once again, right here, we subtracted and we got a remainder of 0. So our answer is the number 87. Now there's a couple different terms that I want you to get to know here. The first one, probably the most basic and the one that we've been introduced to before, this answer in division is called the quotient. So I want to make sure that we're all speaking the same language here, so that when I say a word, you know exactly what it means. So when I say quotient, you know that it means the answer when dividing. This number right here, this number 6, a little bit less commonly known, what we call this number is we call the divisor. The divisor is the number that goes into the bigger number. So we call that the divisor. And then our third number, this 522, this number is called the dividend. This number is called the dividend. So 3 main terms I want you to know on this slide is the quotient, the dividend, and the divisor. Now, one last thing that I really want to talk about on this slide before we get into dividing polynomials is multiplication and division are opposite operations. So we can divide and get our answer of 87. Now we can do the opposite. We can multiply and get back to 522. What I mean by that is we can take our quotient, we can multiply it by our divisor to give us our dividend. Let me say that one more time. We can take our quotient, multiply it by our divisor, and we can get our dividend. And we should get that if we indeed did do it correctly. So let me prove that very, very briefly. Our quotient was the number 87. So 87 multiplied by our divisor, which our divisor was 6, should give us our dividend. Let's see if it is. 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 8 is 48. 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. When we take 87 and multiply it by 6, we get 522. So like I said, our quotient multiplied by our divisor gives us our dividend. 522 is our dividend here, and 522 is our dividend right here. So now class, everything that I wrote on this PowerPoint slide is the exact same when dividing polynomials. It gets a little bit more difficult because we're dealing with variables and so on and so forth, but the algorithm, the process, the procedure, the quotient times the divisor gives us our dividend, all that stuff is the same for polynomials. So now that you have that basic introduction, let's parallel what you learned in the 3rd grade to what you're now going to learn in advanced algebra using dividing polynomials using long division. So the first thing you see up here is you see x squared plus 2x minus 24 divided by x minus 4. Now just like you did back in the 3rd grade, you're going to do the exact same thing here. You're going to make a division bar, you're going to put the dividend inside the division bar, and you're going to put the divisor outside the division bar, just as I have written up here. This is problem number 3 on your notes if you got lost, so make sure you pay very close attention here. So once you've written this down, you're now going to follow this procedure. You're going to say this first term x multiplied by what number gives us x squared. So x times what gives us x squared? Hopefully you see that x times x gives us x squared, so we put x up top. It's kind of like in 3rd grade, we said, how many times does this go into this? Well, x times x is x squared, and so that's why we brought that number up top. Now, in the 3rd grade, once you got this number right here, what did you do with it? You multiplied it down, did you not? You multiplied it right back down. So we're going to do that exact same thing. Once we got x right here, we're now going to multiply it down. So multiply x times this binomial. So we're going to say x times x gives us x squared, and x times a negative 4 is a negative 4x. So that's the first step. Once you've done that, just like in the 3rd grade, what did you do? You then subtracted at this stage. When you subtract, it just means taking the opposite. So it means I'm going to change the signs. I'm going to make this a negative x squared, and I'm going to make this a positive 4x. When I subtract that binomial, I'm going to change the signs on both of them, and that way I will be taking the opposite. So once I've done that, I simply combine like terms. X squared minus an x squared gives us 0x squareds, or just 0. Now class, that isn't just a coincidence. We rig it that way. That is supposed to happen. You've done something wrong if that does not happen. So that should happen every single time. Now this part, we have 2x plus 4x to give us 6x. So we have 6x when we add those two. Just like in the 3rd grade, what did you do next? You now brought down this negative 24. Same thing when we do it in advanced algebra class. We bring down this negative 24. And now we start this whole process over again. We say x, this first term, multiplied by what number gives us this term? X goes into 6x how many times? Or x times what number gives us 6x? And that answer is a positive 6. So we're going to put a positive 6 back up there as part of my quotient. Once you got this 6 up here, we then multiply it down again. So I'm going to take this 6 and I'm going to multiply it by this binomial. So I'm going to take the 6 multiplied by x to give us 6x. And I'm going to take the 6 and multiply it by the negative 4 to give us a negative 24. Once you're at this step, what happens next? You then subtract, which means you're going to take the opposite. So just change the signs on the red part, that red binomial. It's going to be a minus 6x and a positive 24. And then we combine like terms. 6x minus 6x, that gives us 0 x's. And a negative 24 plus 24, that also gives us a 0. So this class is our remainder. On this particular one, we get a remainder of 0. So our answer, or our quotient, is x plus 6. This is what I expect from you on your homework assignment. This is what I expect from you on a test. Now I'm going to show you how you can check your work. You certainly don't have to. In high school, I was always encouraged when my teacher said I could check my work. I wasn't a very confident math student as a freshman, sophomore, junior. So in order to increase my confidence, if I could check my work, that's exactly what I did. So I want to give you guys that opportunity as well. You certainly don't have to, but you can. All right. So to check our work, I told you, just like we did in the 3rd grade, our quotient multiplied by our divisor gives us our dividend. So our quotient, x plus 6, multiplied by our divisor, x minus 4, is going to equal our dividend of x squared plus 2x minus 24. Let's see if that indeed does work. Our quotient, which is x plus 6, multiplied by our divisor, which is x minus 4, gives us our dividend. Let's see if we multiply these, if it does indeed give us our dividend. We multiply using the foiling method. First times the first is x squared. Outside, x times a negative 4 is a negative 4x. Inside, 6 times x is a positive 6x. And last, 6 times a negative 4 is a negative 24. Combining like terms, x squared plus 2x minus 24. Class, I ask you this question: is this trinomial our dividend? X squared plus 2x minus 24, x squared plus 2x minus 24. This is our dividend. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I did this problem correctly. So that should hopefully be comforting to you. If you ever want to check your work, just multiply your quotient times your divisor and see if it's your dividend. If it is your dividend, you know that you have the right answer. All right. You guys just had a lot of information just thrown at you. Why don't you pause the video, try this one on your own, and see if you get the exact same answer that I get. First thing you do, draw your division bar. So we're going to have x squared minus 2x minus 15. That is my dividend. I'm going to put that under my division bar. And my divisor, x minus 5, goes on the outside. So now we're going to ask ourselves the question, x times what gives us x squared? And the answer is x times x gives us x squared. So we put that up top, and then we multiply that down. So we multiply the x by the binomial. So we say x times x is x squared, and x times a negative 5 is a negative 5x. Next step would be to subtract. So I'm going to change the signs on my binomial. Negative x squared and a positive 5x. As I combine like terms, these cancel out, which they always should, and then I have a negative 2x plus 5x is a positive 3x. Once I get that 3x, I bring the negative 15 down. This negative 15, I drop that straight down. I repeat the process. I say x multiplied by what number gives us 3x, and the answer is a positive 3. Once I get that 3 up there, I multiply it down to say x times 3 is 3x. And 3 multiplied by a negative 5 is a negative 15. I'm going to change the signs on these because I'm going to subtract this binomial. So I'm going to have 0 x's and a remainder of 0 once again. So my quotient, my answer, is x plus 3. I hope this makes sense. Tomorrow we can do some more review problems if you would like to get a little bit more practice using long division. Be sure to ask me any questions tomorrow if you would like to.